Let's see with our top story, a big blow for the Bank of Scotland today because UKFI, the body that controls the taxpayers' stake, has told the bank it would vote against any proposal to pay bonuses double those of salaries, as is the case with many of its rivals. Under EU rules, banks now need the green light from shareholders to raise the bonus cap above a 1-to-1 pay ratio. RBS says it would not table a resolution for such a measure at its annual meeting later this year. It says it will create a commercial and prudential risk, though. But the BBC understands that the bank will be, in part, able to circumvent the bonus ceiling by offering higher allowances in the industry for specific roles. Let's speak now to Chris Roebuck. He's an international banking expert. Chris, if they are able to circumvent these rules by offering higher allowances, these are for the top people, the execs and traders, for example, top traders, and they're able to get 100% bonus and their fixed pay, surely this makes complete nonsense of any kind of bonus cap.
Well, I think the issue is quite complex. I mean, what we have to do is, yes, there are people who quite justifiably say banking pay in comparison to everybody else's has perhaps got out of line, but we have to accept the market reality that RBS is currently in if we want our money back as shareholders. And what people have been saying to me is it's actually quite worrying that both political parties have forced this onto RBS for short-term political point-scoring reasons, and it's now put RBS in a position where it technically can pay its top people up to 30% less than a foreign competitor who is literally the other side of the street. So why this has happened is slightly worrying, and the political angle to it, because if we want our money back, decisions should be taken on commercial bases, not political bases. And as far as that's concerned, RBS is in a position where it needs to maintain its competitive advantage.
You said there, it's a pretty impossible situation, isn't it, for RBS? Who's really running the show? Because I would imagine days like today, it doesn't feel like the board, does it? It feels a lot like the Treasury.
Well, let's face it, in any organisation, you know, be it a football club, any commercial organisation, you know, the shareholders are there to express their views. And the shareholders, in the form of the government, have expressed their views. Certainly what we need to accept is that RBS is in a position where it needs to have good people. Organisations need to think about what the relationship is between shareholders and executives, etc., etc. Now, some organisations would say we need to cut down the pay of executives. But the problem is that if you don't have the top executives, the bigger the cake that you get in terms of your profit is likely to be smaller. So actually, from the shareholder perspective, in getting the best people, you end up with a bigger cake and you end up with more money. So some people are making the argument that unless RBS has the best people and is able to pay market rate, the way we get our money back is going to be much, much slower now with this restriction.
Do you think that Osborne, Chancellor George Osborne, has got himself in a bit of a pickle because he's spending money on fighting a legal challenge to EU when it comes to the bonus cap, yet he's imposing the minimum on RBS? But when you look at Lloyds, another bank that we have a stake in, 200% seems fine with him.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a political reality and a commercial reality going on here. The commercial reality is that RBS is probably going to be the only bank in London, in the city, who is subject to this cap. In terms of the political reality, we know that Ed Miliband mentioned this particular question some time ago. I suspect that what's happened is that the government has taken the decision that rather than giving him free rein to criticise the government in supporting rich bankers, they are prepared to put RBS in a position where it has to fight extremely hard to somehow find a way of keeping its best people and not having them stolen by competitors. And it will do whatever it needs to do that legally, because otherwise it is in a position where it cannot produce the profits that we need as taxpayers to get our money back.
Chris Roebuck, that's great. Thank you very much for your time. It's worth noting that the RBS share price has barely moved today. We'll have a full roundup of all the markets news in an hour's time.